It's Saturday, November 9th, 2024. And look, it's t-shirt weather. It's almost short pants weather. It actually would be tolerable short pants. The weather app says it's 12 degrees C here and bright, hot sun. The apiary is absolutely in full flight. This is so weird. However, I'm just out here for a quick look-see. I've been waiting for this day, looking at the forecast, waiting for this day because it's the last warm day, and it's a warm day in its own right because I got my veil and I got my smoker tuned up and I got my favorite hive tool. I'm going to take a look in at least one of these colonies just to get an idea. We don't see in that brood chamber, in that nest, very often this time of year. A lot of the feeding regimes and whatnot, the amount of brood in a hive and all those sorts of ideas are mostly theory, to be honest. So I really want to take a look in here and get a picture in my mind as to what the average colony looks like. And I know we've talked about this a lot on live streams, etc. And I want to share that with you and show you real time what's going on in here. I don't know what's going on. I have an idea what I want to expect, or what I want to expect and what I might expect to see. What I want to expect is a full box of feed and no brood, and a full box of bees. But we'll tear into a couple of these and see what's actually in there. I thought I'd hung up the veil and cooled the smoker for the last time this season, but that wasn't the case. These two look like there's this reasonable amount of activity, so we'll pick on them. Oh, look at this. I don't like the look of that. I'll tell you why. There's that kind of activity there. It almost looks like they're dead and being robbed out. I don't think they're dead. I've got the remnant of a formic acid pad here. I don't really need to take these out, so I haven't. But we'll take them out as we go. And also have the remnant of a appy tablet here. I'll just put that aside. Give that back to them when I'm done. Okay, so moment of truth. This cluster isn't really big. It's here. This is one of the James McNally queens that I received. Thank you, James. So this was the first round of James McNally queens. I received 2 rounds, and that comment is mostly for James's edification. He's always asking me how his queens are doing. So it's always tough to break into hives right now because they've been sealed up so long. So this is what I expect to see. Sorry, it's hard to video because the shadows are getting so long. So this is what I expect to see. Full frames of feed. So let's just have a look. Okay, so 2 fully capped frames of feed there. There's another one here. That one's just got a tiny bit of open space. I can feel the heat. I can feel the heat coming out of that hive. So the nest is over here. If you can call it a nest, it's a cluster, really. I kind of hope it's not a nest, but we'll see. Okay, so we're getting in there. We've got some empty space here. I don't really want a lot of empty space. This leads me to think that they were brooding when I finished feeding, and so this is empty space. I'm going to make a decision here on perhaps moving these empty frames more to the outside and giving them the feed to sit on as a cluster in the middle, because sometimes in the winter, in the cooler weather, they can't move to the side. So there is a little bit of immature brood here. It's not sealed, but this, you can't see it, but this whole area is brood between, I don't know if I see any eggs, but I think there might be eggs or just beyond. This is day 1 to day 3 of brood on this frame. That's actually surprising, and I'm trying not to be alarmed by that, because you see the feed consumption is dramatically higher when they're brooding. And I think, well, there's a good swath of brood there too. I've got my nice green marked queen here. She's working as hard as she can. There's a smattering of sealed brood here. I have to talk to Lloyd about my findings. This is right up his alley. They're very unsettled. The bees are not calm. They're buzzing. A little bit of sealed brood, but I don't see a lot of immature brood surrounding that. That's a pretty good patch of sealed brood. Wow, I was not expecting this. Typically, I want these hives to be plugged right out with syrup. I want to see 10 frames of syrup stored away for winter. And so here's sealed brood and a little bit of open brood that's a little more mature, and then nothing here. So that's feed as well. Okay, so this is my nest right here. It's actually a considerable nest. I have a syrup frame here. It's 100% syrup. So I think this was the beginning of the nest. I want to be fairly quick because there is a little bit of a breeze from my back. I don't want to chill things a lot. Okay, so I am going to take these frames that are not as well filled with feed. You know what? I'm not going to put it there because I think the nest will typically migrate this way to the thermal center of this setup. I'll take one that's fairly full, put it here. We'll move the nest away from the thermal center a little bit because it's not real cold yet. But leave them those full frames to migrate toward. This one was this was the brood. Okay, so I want that brood, and then I want a nice healthy feed frame next to that. There is no brood in that one. So put one of these nice full ones there. Airplane. Ian was commented, he said, because I know his son is in flight training, and that's the airport where these planes come and go to and from. And he said that his son looks down to see what I'm doing in the PR. That's real fun. That's fun to know. Okay, so that one's full. This one I'm going to put on the outside. I don't want to put too much Oddly enough, over here, I don't want to get that nest pushed too far from the thermal center. Oh, I'm going to put one more though, because they're never going to be like super cold. These are indoor colonies, so they should be okay. And this one is kind of becoming empty. I'll put it on this side. So that was pretty surprising to me. I was not expecting that much brood on the 9th of November. Not really sure how to interpret that. I might see Lloyd on Tuesday and I'll talk to him about that. Okay, let's, oh, there's a little bit of happy tablet we'll put back in here. I don't think happy tablet really is the be all end all, but I think it helps. We'll see. We'll keep evaluating and we'll see what it does. Okay, a little harder to evaluate frames when you're looking into the sun. So these are a lot more chill and a lot more full bees. That's really nice to see. Wow. That looks pretty nice. Just get rid of this messy thing. That formic treatment, that's kind of messy. So this Abbey tablet, wow, this is soft. This is really soft. It's not soft to the point of dripping or anything, but it's definitely not a cake. The hard it comes out of the package, it's hard. It's a very hard cake. So what do you think is going to be in here? Is it going to be a whack more brood? Okay, that looks pretty good. A little bit of empty space down there. And that empty space there's a tiny bit of, I'm going to call it nectar. It's, unsealed. It's not cured honey. So this one again, what I'm not seeing is encouraging, and we'll see when we go further in, is I'm not seeing a bunch of that mite poop in the cells. Right? That's not good if you have that. I see brood on the next frame. Now I'm not going to sleep. Sometimes it's just better to live in ignorance. This is, I think this might be chilled brood. There's some domed caps here, which makes me worry a little. It's just a smattering of perhaps open larvae there. But I wouldn't class that as the active nest because it looks like that bird is dead and probably chilled. Just one of those cold nights. It just got too cold. Okay, so more capped or domed caps here. So this one might, despite its population, it might not have a queen. It might be laying workers. And if it is, at this point, that's it. I don't think there's I could try to do a combine, I suppose, with that one. Doing a combine on the 9th of November, that's kind of crazy. Open nectar there. Just a little bit. And it'd be syrup, of course. I've been feeding them, so it's not nectar per se. Wow. They seem to have a good population, but I think maybe they don't have a queen. It's the same first round James McNally as well. Yeah, that's the end of the nest for sure. It's just it's just feed frames now. I don't think they have a queen now. However, seeing no brood is not cause enough to say, "Oh my God, they have no queen." It's not like that. Seeing those domed caps is what makes me concerned. So, you know what? The 9th of November, I'm going to let this ride out. What I can do is I can put a mark on it so that we can track it and see what happens to it by spring. Because again, this time of year, you can't say no brood, therefore no queen, like you would in almost any other time of the season or time of the year. Okay, we can probably do one or two more. I need some good news. That's what I need. Okay, these two are my 2024 Kerry Martindale queens. So far, that looks really nice. Some of them got so big for their britches that I put them in a 10-frame box. Most of them, these are also Kerry's. They're 6-framers, so I'm hoping I didn't make a huge misstep by doing that. Again, see you in the spring, won't we? Because this little cluster is right here. It's not big, but these are carniolans. They winter in small clusters, and that's advantageous here because they don't eat as much then. Oh boy, it's always difficult to break into these this time of year. And there's so much syrup here too. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. Just cut that syrup away. Okay, that's a frame of syrup. That's what you want to see. I want to see 9 more of those. Uh-oh. Pretty good. A little empty space on that side. And empty space on this side. Sorry, I'm casting a shadow over it. Bees are a little jumpy this time of year in this kind of weather. And look at this brood. There's a good little brood nest here. And there's it's contiguous. There's open brood, there's sealed brood here as well as here. Things that make you go, I don't like those things. They squash my bees when I put it back together. Oh, that nest is actually a pretty good sized nest. Wow. Yeah, she's brooding now. That's a youthful queen. Now do that, but again, it's the 9th of November. I think I'm going to stop here. It's so webbed with comb. It's becoming difficult to manage without smashing bees. I need every bee I can get. All right. So the feed stores I'd say the feed stores are pretty good. They don't eat as much indoors as they do out. And no, I'm not going to dig into a double. That's just way too much work. Way too much work for little reward. All right. I kind of was hoping to show you a box that looked more like a honey super, but not this year. I have seen that though. 10 frames of sealed feed. It's the weirdest looking thing. You kind of think your colony's dead, but then they're fine. Okay. Well, that was educational. That was very educational. And, I'm going to try not to let it worry me at all because there's nothing I can do at this point, even if I should, right? There's the die is cast, as they say. So these will go away for the winter, and we will look at them in the spring. I'll try to remember to mark that one to see if that one turns out okay in the spring. So I just wanted to show you that. It's looking like Monday is going to be my bee moving day, November 11th. And speaking about November 11th, let's all remember where our freedom has come from. If there were not for brave and dedicated patriotic people 20 years before I was born, this would be a very different land, and probably not for the better. I'll guarantee it wouldn't have been for the better. So let's honor those who served. Let's honor those who served and didn't come home. And let's honor those who serve today to maintain that. We owe everything to these people. So let's always remember that 365 days a year, but especially on the 11th of November. So I'll be remembering that as I move bees on the 11th. And so we'll put the indoor bees indoors, and I'll move these outdoor bees over to this one row as I free up space to maneuver in here with the tractor. And that'll be it really for moving bees around. I'll be building quilt boxes this week, so I'll show you how I do that and kind of explain to you my thought process. I know it's not something everybody uses, but it's something that I used my first and only year of wintering. And again, I had 100% survivorship that year. So I know that recipe. It's not hurting the bees in a remarkable fashion. So that's what I'll be doing again this year. That's all I have to share for today. I just have some cleanup little odds and ends to do here in the apiary. It's a beautiful day to do that. I might overheat. It's actually really warm. It's just such a beautiful day, but today's the last day of that. I was going to mention that I've chose Monday as my move-in day because the daytime highs have been too warm to cool my building. I don't have refrigeration in my building. I really wish I did, and I really admire those who do have refrigeration in their building, but I don't. So I need to use the cold outside air to cool the building. When you have, say 100 colonies of bees in a building, they produce a lot of heat. They say it's between 10 and 20 watts a colony, so if it's 20 watts, that's a 2,000 watt heater going in there constantly. And that's a lot of heat. That's a lot of heat in a building. So I rely on the cold outside air to cool that and ventilate it and cool it. And so if the temperature outside is 12 degrees like today, there's no way I can do that. It'll always be ambient or higher. So the daytime highs starting on Tuesday are supposed to be lower. And so I'll have a chance to keep that cool. So that's what I've been waiting on. I really want to get these bees indoors, but I can't. I can't do that yet. It's been too warm. So we'll do that next week. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to losing my building, but looking forward to getting these bees put away and turn the page into a new chapter and get some work done in the woodshop perhaps. I really appreciate you watching. Take care and have fun. It's Monday, November 11th, 2024. Let's all remember those servicemen and women who served today and have served in the past, and especially those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And let's not take that freedom for granted, ever, no matter what political stripe we are. Let's make sure we remember that freedom and remember how fragile it is and how easily it's stripped away. Today I was planning to move bees, and I decided against it. I've been really waffling on that because the weather has been just unremarkably cold, unremarkably warm. It's been right in the middle there, right in the middle where it would be a challenge to keep the building cool and where the bees are still just fine outside. It's remarkable how well they stay warm. They're in their boxes. There's no dramatically terrible weather here right now. We got a little dusting of snow this morning, but it's all gone by now, and it's not late in the day still. So I decided against it, and the reason I did was, on one hand, it's the 11th of November. It's getting on to be moving the bees in. I normally move the bees in the first week of November, usually late in the first week of November. So that's just kind of normally what I do. And that's judging by the cold nights. I don't want them to be out when the nights are too terribly cold. And I just choose an arbitrary number, so there's no real science to that. The overnight loads have not been, down to that threshold where I would worry and be concerned to get them indoors. And that threshold is actually -10, and I've chosen that just arbitrarily in my own head. Now, the challenge would be, are the daytime highs warm enough that I'm not going to be able to keep the building cool? I don't have refrigeration in my building. I rely on the cold outside air to cool it. The daytime highs have been reaching higher temperatures recently, where it would be a challenge. So I try to cool to 4 degrees. If it goes to 5 or 6 or even 7, acceptable kind of upper limits in my mind. I see the bees getting kind of jumpy by the time it gets to 6 and 7. But the daytime highs have been that or higher recently, so I've not been wanting to move my bees indoors because I can't cool them any colder than the outside air. And the overnight lows have not been terribly cold, so I'm not worried about them sitting outside. Well, now the forecast daytime highs are cool enough. We do have some 8s coming by, which is a little bit higher. There is thermal mass in the shed. Once you cool the slab down, once you cool everything in the shed, then it does stay cool for a longer period of time. Say over a day, it might stay cool. But also the overnight lows are still not going very cold. They're hardly going below freezing most days, or most nights. So I'm still not worried about them being outside. So I've decided, because it rained recently and snowed a bit today, if I went to move bees today, I would make an awful terrible mess of the yard with muddy ruts everywhere, and I would be paying for that all winter long. I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to sit on it for a bit. I was looking at the long range forecast, and the overnight lows, there's a -12 that comes up, I don't know, maybe about the 27th of November. So we'll keep watch on the forecast. Anything beyond 3 or 4 days is kind of a crapshoot with those people. Uh, they don't know what the weather was yesterday half the time, so I have to watch it carefully, and I have to be flexible to say, oh, look at that, maybe I better move bees tomorrow and be ready to go. I've got the honey house ready to go. Well, it's now the bee barn, so I've got that building ready to go, and I can move in at a moment's notice now. So what did I decide to do today? Woodshop. So I've got a few projects in here to do. I've just started on making those quilt boxes that I referred to, and I'm going to show that later on. Once I really get into it in earnest, I need a little bit more material and whatnot to keep going on that. But what I'm starting on right now is a little bit of an aside. One of my stores, my largest store that I have that I sell honey in, they asked me if I could make or bring in a display, just a standalone display fixture for the store so that they could put it in a particular spot. And I said, yeah, I can. So I started thinking, now, what am I going to do? Am I going to just go buy something? I could go buy something, but I thought, I got a wood shop. I'm going to build something. So I started thinking about what I can build, and I thought, okay, let's make this a real beehive kind of a store display. So I'll turn the camera down and I'll show you what I've got put together here so far. So what I've done is I've taken 3 sides of unassembled beehive panels. I've put them together, box jointed end to end. I've turned, this is a buddy, actually he stumbled across this. I was wondering how to put these together because the joints are the same. He just turned this one panel around, so there's a top here and a top here, and the joint went together nicely. It's not perfectly flush. Once I get this attached, I'll straighten that out on the table saw. So these 2 pieces then, they're not attached yet, so they might fall apart, are the sides of my store display. So that's what I've decided to do there, and I'll actually just take another one of these pieces, I'll cut it shorter, put the handle side down, and that's what I'll dado that in here for the shelves for the display. And for the display back, I've decided to use foundation. It's got a honeycomb pattern on it. I'd like to use an unwaxed foundation, but I don't have any, and my supplier doesn't have any either, so I'll try this. It'll slide in there and slide out if it becomes a problem. I just thought maybe the wax would collect dust. So for the back, I'm going to just dado in again a little groove here on the side and slide this foundation. I'm going to buy a few sheets of yellow, and so I'll alternate yellow and black all the way down the back of the shelving unit. So I thought that would make a pretty decent display. And when I'm done, I'll prime it and I'll paint it. I have some yellow paint, and I'll paint this yellow. I'm not good at artwork, so I wish I could do some artwork or something on it, but I can't, not with my skill set. I have a little sign that I bought years ago that I can probably put on the top. I did do a SketchUp diagram, and I'll put a still of that SketchUp image in here right now. And you can see some boxes here with holes in them. I've been taking everything over to my drill press in the corner and drilling holes. I can't show you that much because there's nowhere to put the camera over there, but it's just drilling holes. I've made a couple of templates here with some guides on the bottom. Put that on the box and line it up, drill the holes. I'm putting 2-inch holes in these boxes. I'm putting 6 holes per box, 2 on each side, and 1 on each end. And those are ventilation holes for the quilt boxes. And we'll be stepping through that build as I go. So I don't want to bore you with all the details every time. So we'll do that together as we go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care and have fun. It's Thursday, November the 14th, 2024. I say that, it sounds so ominous. It's not, actually. I sat in a meeting all morning. It's a pretty interesting meeting, actually. And it turns out I'm kind of the hothead in the group. I don't say much, but when I do, I really let them have it. But regardless, I told Ian that I'm trying to harness that, but the harness keeps breaking. He's pretty forgiving that way. He's the chair of some of these meetings that I have. Anyway, yeah, this week has been a week of meetings, 2 meetings with the provincial association, and those are Zooms, so they're far more convenient. But they'll use up a whole morning, and then evening in-person meeting with my regional association. So it's definitely been a lot of meetings and whatnot this week, but it's been kind of good because there's not a lot of fires right now. So I have lots of things to do, but there's not a lot of things on fire, especially the weather. Boy, the weather's been something else. It has rained a little lately, but it's 4 degrees C outside. So you think, well, oh my goodness, it's getting to the 14th of November and my bees are out. It's 4 degrees C out there. That's perfect storage temperature for bees. And the temperature is not even varying much. I think it went down to 3 degrees C last night. It didn't freeze, according to my weather app. So, boy, I can't complain about that. If this weather holds all winter, which I'm no fool, I know it won't, my bees will stay where they are, and we'll just leave the building as it is. Problem is, I need to keep the building ready, because if the weather forecast does turn on me, then I need to be able to get those in pretty quick. So today, I'm just going to work on this a little bit more. I have an errand I need to do later today, so I don't have much time to work on this.
Thank you for calling the Stop Service Department. Someone will be with you shortly.
Okay, I have good news and I have bad news. I'll give you the bad news first. Apparently there's something wrong with this cartridge now. Oddly enough, there was nothing wrong with it 2 days ago. But there's a little circuitry and microprocessor and stuff in here, so it's actually a pretty complicated little system that they use, as you can imagine, for detecting human skin and stopping that blade. So I'm not going to be able to cut any dados. I'm not going to be able to cut with my dado blade here anytime soon. So that's the bad news. The good news is this is a 12-year-old blade break, and this is a 12-year-old saw. So the good news is I phoned up SawStop, and I waited on hold for just a minute or two, and then they said, everybody's busy if you want to call back. So I entered my phone number, which was good for me because it wasn't a toll-free number and it was in the United States, and I don't have an international calling plan, so it was going to cost me a little bit for a telephone call. So have them phone me back. It doesn't cost me anything. So just the initial, 2-3 minutes is what it cost me. So Michael phoned me within just a few minutes, and very nice, helpful, patient, and I will add, spoke perfect good American English, which was really great, really easy to understand, and he understood me perfectly. So he diagnosed the problem, had me go through a few steps to troubleshoot. There's some lights on the control panel here that he stepped me through a process to get a blink code. So there's a green light and a red light, and they blink in a certain sequence to tell him more information about what's going on. So I gave him the blink codes, and he took a moment and he looked that up, and he said, basically he just said, yeah, he says something wrong with that cartridge. So he said, I'm going to send you one today, and took my address. It's going to come FedEx. It's not going to overnight or anything, so it'll be a few days before I can get that. But that's, I forget what that was running. I think it was running over $200 for that cartridge. So I'm glad I don't have to go out and buy one. Again, I'll say, this is a 12-year-old saw. Okay? And he didn't just say, well, first of all, I've just phoned support for a 12-year-old saw, and I don't pay for a support contract, right? And they were more than happy just to take me in and help me. And they're sending me repair parts for no charge, no shipping fees, nothing, for just for nothing, just for free. I didn't even present him this option. I don't think that it's really an option, but I can easily get that cartridge in Winnipeg. They're in stock there. I could probably order it on Amazon and have it here before his would, but regardless, I let the system work the way the system's designed. I'll have it early next week as far as he says, and then we can start doing some of these dados. We'll just work on different parts of this until then. My problem is I can do this with a 10-inch rip blade, but you need to have a rip blade that makes a flat top cut. Remember how I was saying that crosscut blade, the teeth on it were alternating top bevel. So if you cut a non-through cut with that, then like a dado or a rabbit or something, it won't be flat. It'll have ridges in there. So I don't have another blade that's a flat top rip blade, which I could use for this. It would be a little more work because it's much narrower and I'd have to chip away at it. But that does work. So we'll just do other stuff until then. I got all these quilt boxes to work on in the meantime. But I wanted to relate that to you. You know, sometimes, and because most of you are beekeepers, I'll put it this way. Sometimes SawStop is put in the category of the flow hive of table saws. There's hardly a finer table saw on the market, but there's a lot of people poo-poo them because of the blade break technology, and yeah, I'm out of business here, but you know, I have a spare 10-inch cartridge, so if something goes wrong with the cartridge, I'll put my spare on and then I'm good. I don't have a spare dado cartridge. I could have. It's just, you know, $200 sitting in the drawer. So I've just never done that. Maybe I will now. But generally, this isn't a high production shop where we're going to shut down half a dozen employees or something just because electronics failed. And again, this thing's got a lot of hours on it, and it's 12 years old. So for something electronic to go at this point is really, you can't fault it too much. But you know, I think the looking down upon saw stops is kind of not really warranted. But what people say about them is they'll say that, well, because you think it can't cut your fingers off, then you're not going to work safely. That is a problem, right? You have to make sure you're using your saw stop as if it's not a saw stop is what you need to do. You need to take all of the safety precautions that you would take if it can cut your fingers off. So you have to, you know, respect it that way. Because you do not want to develop bad habits around a table saw. Doesn't matter what kind of table saw it is. So I think that's what's really behind a lot of people coming down on table saw stops and people who buy saw stops. I've used table saw since I was a little kid, and I've seen what can go wrong. I have seen what can go wrong. I've seen people in my community with only like half of one finger on one hand, you know, that kind of thing, because of table saw, and that's it's not good. I grew up in kind of in the lumber industry a little bit. We did custom planing, and the big planer that we use is a 16,000-pound unit. It take a 60-horse tractor to run it. It planes 4 sides at once. It sizes lumber, so you can put a 2x4 into that thing and make a 1x4 out of it. It's that powerful, and 1909 was when that thing was built. So it's all run by, are they 5-inch flat belts, I think? So I grew up working right beside big flat belts all the time. And I've still got all my fingers and toes and arms and legs. And nobody in my family was ever hurt because of that. It's something to be respected. So I take the same approach with table saw, and I take the same approach with this. This guy's way more dangerous than my table saw. Drill press is more dangerous than my table saw because this thing will cut your fingers off. That thing will rip your hand off if you're doing things wrong. I don't have a lathe anymore, but A lathe, that's worse. That'll rip your arm off if you don't do things right. So, you know, you just have to respect what they are and what they're capable of. I have to go and do my errand, so I'll leave you with that, and we'll pick this project up again soon. I need more material, so we need to get some more of these pieces and put some more of this shelving unit together. So thanks so much for watching. It's Friday, November 15, 2024. And it's about 3:30 in the afternoon. It's 7 degrees. It didn't even freeze last night. I don't think it's forecast to even freeze tonight. That's pretty incredible. By my standards as to when I move my bees in, I think I'll be moving my bees in about the 27th of November, which is fine. It's weird, but it's fine because they're sitting outside just about perfect temperature conditions right now. So today, I'm just getting actually the last couple hours started on this project. I've had a little errand to do today and took me away, and I sat in the house and did some business as well, which means scrolling Facebook. Who are we kidding? So I'll show you what I've been working at here in the shop. I've taken a whole whack of these boxes, these old boxes that I got over the years. You should always keep old boxes because, man, are they ever handy. And I've drilled holes in them. I've drilled 2-inch holes, 2 in the side, 1 in the end. So 6 holes overall. And now today I'm putting a shim, gluing and stapling this shim. It's just a 3/4 inch square piece of wood. I'm just using up scraps here that I have, that I found in the shop and around the yard. Just whatever I can put in there. My only requirement really is that I have enough surface to then staple my number 8 hardware cloth to that. I have one that I've done already, so I'll bring that over, show you. Okay, this is upside down. Made myself a little sizing guide, and I've arbitrarily decided that this shim will be 1 inch from the bottom, and then simply cut and staple number 8 hardware cloth on that. It doesn't really need a lot of support. It's pretty tough stuff, but you want to make sure it's bee proof. You don't want the bees going up in here. So what's going to happen is I put it on the table saw, and I'm going to just cut out a little, maybe a 1 inch by 3/8 upper entrance here, because this will sit on top of the brood chambers and offer insulation and a desiccant factor with this box full of wood shavings. So I've put number 8 hardware cloth screen here over the inside of the holes, keep the bugs out. When I did this before, I left the wood shavings down farther. I keep saying wood chips. That's not as accurate. People question me on that, and they're right. It's not. It's wood shavings is what I'm using. I left them down, and then I put a 2-inch slab of polystyrene in here. I don't have a lot of polystyrene left, and if I were to buy all that, that's $300. So I think this will work. What will go on top is my Reflectix inner cover, my foamy, and then my migratory cover. We'll go over top of that. And I think that'll be it. I might end up running my red tape along this seam between here and the brood chamber. And this is not the right way to do it. This is not the only way to do it. This is not even the proper way to do it. This is the way I did it my first year having bees back in 2015. And I did this, and I didn't lose any colonies that winter. So, you know, who's to say it doesn't work? I know it can work. Is it necessary? Maybe not. But it's going to work, you know, as well as it did that time. So, you can tell I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit tired. So that's the deal. that's all I'm doing here, just putting this shim in these boxes, and then I'll come back, once I got the shims in, I'll come back with the hardware cloth and cut that and put it in there. I'm just using a good utility knife to cut the hardware cloth. It's not the little narrow one, it's a wider one. These are really great utility knives, but the only problem with them is they have legs. It's an Olfa. It's a nice name brand knife, but you can see it's not fancy, no bells and whistles. Got a little bit of a comfort grip there, I guess, which kind of helps, I suppose. But it's wider than the small ones. 25 millimeters. That's an inch. And yeah, I just these are sacrificial, right? And I can tell it's not sharp anymore. But that cuts that hardware cloth real nice. You just cut it right down, no problem. I also have some heavy kitchen scissors I can use on that stuff. So that's about it. I'll likely be working at this for quite a number of days now. My days are getting to be so they're not quite as busy. There's not as many fires to put out. There's always stores to visit, customer deliveries to make, etc. Honey packing, that sort of thing. But my building there is half empty because I've got it ready for the bees, and the bees are still outside, which is fine. I don't mind keeping that building accessible. I'll leave you with that for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I hope you have a great weekend. Take care and have fun.